Hi, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come with me as I wander the country in search of valuable vintage, amazing antiques, and cool collectibles. We'll buy, sell, and trade at antique malls, shops, and shows, estate sales, flea markets, thrift stores, anywhere people go to find really interesting things that just aren't made anymore. So come on, let's go! Hey, it's George the Antique Nomad, and I'm in Guthrie, Kentucky, on the way to the Greenville, Kentucky flea market. This is a different direction. I'm not usually headed coming back from Florida to this place, so we're going to see some back roads and some unusual sights, like Jumbo the elephant there. He loves his boiled peanuts, and you know, they are pretty good. So I always cruise through the outdoor dealers first when I come to this flea market, and these folks on the right have quilts, and I especially like actually the quilt top for the butterfly, so I'm going to take that and these really cool cats that were made in Mississippi. I've seen one of these not on a board before, but this is the first time I've seen this vintage set together. Pretty decent prices, some Western stuff. This is a neat piece here. And yeah, I like all these old banners from the 40s and 50s, and ooh, well, American Legion. Welcome. It's probably for the homecoming for the Second World War vets, and yeah, it's got some good graphics actually, but oh, right in the middle of Legionnaires there's a big hole, so I guess I'm going to pass on that. World War I veterans and World War II, so this was made in the late 40s before the Korean War. Interesting thing to see out here. This guy's been a dealer here for a long time, and he's got one of the individual buildings. The good thing is, on a rainy day, there are buildings that have stuff in them, and so I can be inside where it's dry and look at a lot of neat things. He just got a big shipment. He's shopped at my estate sales before, and he's always out there picking. I like the whirligig here. A nice wind, and that'll have that gal pumping that well. A terrible old chair there. This is really a flea market, so there's some stuff that's sort of been around a long time, but there's also a lot of really cool stuff that has just come in. Down here, I like the looks of this guy. These were made in the 19-teens. They are the Friar ware, and several companies made them. This particular one is Warwick of the United States of America. This was done by a company in Ohio called Warwick. Ioga is the blank, the shape, in other words. Very Art Nouveau with that blown out pour spout and the body of the piece being rounded like that. They sell for about $30 or $40 now. Both of these beverage sets are from the 1960s. The painted juice ceramic is Japanese, and the Blendo glasses from West Virginia in the back there. Very popular now. About 20 a piece for retail. Cute little figurines. He's only asking 3 and 4 a piece for these. There's definitely room for resellers, but I see other things, including this Asiatic microphone. I like to buy microphones. They're great for props. Some people still use them for ham radio and CB and that sort of thing. This one's one you see fairly often. It's the Asiatic Corporation, and it's got the TUG8 stand mic label on it. This is going to be from about 1960. It's just a classic look, and it probably works. Most of these still do, even if the camera doesn't get it in focus. There we go. So yeah, I'm going to take this for $12. People who've watched me for a while realize that I do look at bookends, and these are 1920s. They're rather plain, but they have a pithy saying on that. All these old adages appeal to different people, especially bibliophiles. Aha! Bradley and Hubbard. That is a good mark to look for. Their stuff has always commanded a little bit of a premium, and I asked him and he said $20 on that and only $10 for this, which is McCoy. It's an odd piece you don't see very often, from about 1950 with the two quail. I think these are really cool. I'm tempted to get it. He quoted 25, I think, on it. It's folk art from the 1920s or 30s with the cabin and a smoking stand with the place to hold your matches. I've had these before and they're really cool. I know you can still get Connects, but if you were a 90s kid, I think that's when you would have seen this display. And it's really cool. It's big, it's colorful. You know, Legos become super popular. This stuff is going to as well. If you can find 90s era sets, look for them. Ooh, I like this. And I am going to find out what he has on this. I love to buy these. If it's under $20, I'll take it. It's a Camel Seat. They were really popular in the 60s for some reason. I think they were just considered exotic as little footrests or ottomans, and you can see this has the pressed leather. It needs to be cleaned up a little bit. Oh, he's flashing me $10? Oh yeah, I'm going to get this. That's great. Yeah, very cool piece. Well, there's a big old jumble of stuff. You will see some piles in this place, but they're covering up because of the rain and pulling things in, so some of the places didn't open up today, but you can see there's quite a lot here when it's really busy. And it isn't just bluegrass that's from this part of the country. The Everly brothers were born in Central City, about 10 miles from here. This is a really neat thing. I like the color and the look of this old fire hose with the reel. These sell for about $300 a piece now. And then if you want real weathered farm furniture, here is a piece for you. Original old paint, not faked. Oh boy, I have to admit I am tempted by this no parking sign, but I think it's been here since probably this place started, and I'm sure they would not be happy if I took it. Well, we'll have to come back. This is a little bit of a rain out, and some of this that's left, well, they call it a flea market for a reason. It might have fleas, but we're going to head on to some of the antique shops. There's a lot that open on Tuesday. Well, lucky for me, I live in Seattle, and so I'm used to ducking a little rain. They have cool stuff outside under the canopy and in a little back garage area that's separate from the main building. I think this shop is connected to an antique store in the main part of town called My Sister's Stuff. Old farm junk does sell. This is an old waterer for your critters. $8 is a good deal. And bed springs. I tell people bed springs sell and they just look at me funny, but people are using them to hang pots and pans from ceilings. I've seen them used in lighting. The old burner stove there is kind of cute. It's only, I think, $30. This is a nice bentwood little divan. It would have been made probably in the 1980s or 90s, but they've aged now, and they're pretty cool looking. I don't see a price on this one though, but that's alright because I'm not in the market. Wow, these are neat. I like the composite or the aggregate on the top that shows, it gives it a nice contrast, and they look like they have some age. That pebble finish is cool. Oh, $60 or two for 100. Boy, if they just weren't so big and heavy. Okay, so coming into the back room, this is an old garage behind the main building. It's not really staffed, so they put overflow in here. And tables and chairs and big decor. Most of it's new. Sometimes there's cool vintage back here. The prices are really good anyway, regardless, depending what you're looking for. I like the cranberry base on the lamp, but I really wanted to show this hand. This is by Hall China, the same people who made the teapots. These were for the latex glove companies that operated in this country until about 1990, and it's got a good mark on it. They would have a bunch of these on a spindle rotating. There was another rubber product that they made that had a different shaped attachment. So the architectural pieces here are fun. They're from the 50s or 60s. They would have been on the porch of a house. I've sold these in Florida, and wow, 15 a piece. Oh, these are coming with me. They're big, but they will fit kind of along the side of the van and go to a show. That's going to be great. Aw, there's Bob the cat, because he has no tail. And he has no interest in me today. Fine. This is a neat thing I could take to Florida, perhaps. This is a 1970s lucite pedestal. It's a little tall and narrow. I'm not sure what someone would do with it, but the nice thing is it's on wheels, and when you see these rubbery wheels, those are definitely 70s. They even made platform shoes with that kind of a rubber material in the heel. This is a good deal. This is Cranberry Glass, and it's by Pilgrim Glass out of West Virginia. This was a blossom holder. I remember we repped them in the early 90s while they were still in business at the Factory Outlet Center in Washington, and these sold for about $15 new. Boy, it's really pouring now, and I'm at Treasure House, which is a neat higher-end antique and collectible store that's been here for quite a while on the outskirts of Greenville as well. Inside where it's dry. And there's an interesting piece of Fenton right off the bat. Yeah, $32 is pretty much retail on that, but that's a 1950s color. They're all called some color of crest depending on... Oh, $22. Well, that's actually a decent deal, because that shade of blue, I think that's turquoise crest, is from the mid-50s. Here's a whole lot of little miniatures. Dollhouse miniatures are a popular thing to collect. Okay, this is Jeanette Hellenic. It's really kind of aping Wedgwood Jasperware. I just sold the blue version of this in a shaker, and yeah, $60 for the whole set with the ice bucket and the little cocktails. That's pretty good. Okay, a room full of interesting things. It's a variety here. It's really a decorative store. Very colorful, lots to see. Some vintage, some less so. These are 1970s Moon and Stars. Oh, this is nice. 1920s mirror, and these triptych mirrors were popular where they would be etched on two sides and clear in the middle, but this one has candle sconces, and I haven't seen that before. Really cool. Hi there. Yeah, I like this mirror. It's $95. That's about right for those. There's a pretty neat Lazy Susan. That's going to be California from about the 1960s. Very fancy Birdcage. Okay, I want to show these because nothing on this shelf is actually an original. Every one of these is a reproduction. The fellow who owns this shop bought it, and these were in it, and I'll show you several reproduction things he has. He's very honest about it. I get the feeling he's not really too excited about reproductions, but they're here, and he's going to sell off the stock, of course, because they came with the store. Stinky Cheese is cute. That appears to be another California pottery, I think, although it could be Cardinal China out of Ohio. I've never seen one with the mark in all the years I've been doing this, and I haven't run into anyone who could tell me. Cute skunk, though. All hand-painted. 50s, obviously. Okay, here these guys are again, and I want to show you underneath. This one was done originally by Salem China in Ohio. And yet, turn this one over, it's very thin, and you're going to see something that should not be there, which is a very convincing, authentic looking McCoy mark. But look how white the bottom is. Like no one ever used it, and yet they faked it in China to look as if it was a real McCoy mark. But that jar was not ever made by McCoy. A nice shelf of uranium or Vaseline glass here again, very popular now. And then we have some Victorian pieces. Now, if these are original, which I believe they are, I didn't open the case to look yet, but these prices are very good with the applied work. There were companies like Webb and Stevens and Williams that did these in the US and England, and these used to sell for 3 times this price. So it could be a real bargain here. This beautiful amphora piece is royal ducks out of what is now the Czech Republic, Bohemia back then. It's wonderfully made. The detail is so nice. These are from the Art Nouveau period around 1900, 1910. $4.95 is not unrealistic for that piece. I've seen them go for that. Even recently it shows there's still a lot of interest in Art Nouveau. Again, the black memorabilia shakers and the cookie jar are fake, but the plates around them are real Blue Ridge and other patterns. I think this is a very happy cart. The canister set at the bottom is likely to be 1960s because of the more orange aspect, and the cart itself is from the 50s. Now the jadeite is new again, another inheritance from the previous store owner. You never really see these pieces with the Coca-Cola fishtail on them because they're not from the right era. These 1930s looking salt and peppers, well, they're just not quite right, and look how shiny the tops are. They didn't do those in jadeite originally, nor did they do the maple syrup or the sugar with the Chanticleer, which was actually a Heisey pattern, and Heisey never made jadeite glass, so they've really borrowed from a lot of different companies. And these are also reproductions. Hull Pottery did make Little Red Riding Hood in the late 1940s, but these are fantasy pieces. They're not quite like the original molds. You can see on the bottom here, again, look how white it is. There's no mark. There's a very shiny glaze. It's just not the way the originals were made. The originals were very well marked, Hull Little Red Riding Hood usually. This is a cute set on the other hand. This is Farber Brothers out of New York, 1930s, called Krome-Kraft. When you see that particular shaping on the bottom, we'll get this in where you can see it. Okay, yeah, Farber Brothers, New York. These were very popular in the 1930s. They're popular with deco collectors. This set retails around $40, so I'm going to buy it because this is half price, and they probably will give me a nice little dealer discount as well. Now, the toile upholstery is redone, but I think it's a really attractive look for this walnut Victorian chair with the spoon carving, and they even did the oval trash can to match, so that's a neat design. Toile is a very popular style of fabric with these scenes painted, originally from France, and we see a lot of it in this country in the 1960s. A lot of pieces were upholstered this way, and then again recently it's been popular. I like this service sign. It looks like it was repaired in some way, 1940s I'm thinking, but I don't see a price, so it's probably not for sale. In here, this is a cute little black and white table. These utility tables were popular because they had the enamel. It's an Art Deco 1930s style with diamonds, and you can pull out 2 leaves. They are great for utility, around $139 a piece, and there's that Blendo set that we just saw at the flea market. This is neat because it's shaped. The early Formica tables were fancy that way. Sometimes they'd have patterns on them too. Used to be every estate sale I went to had a Formica table, and now they're hard to find, especially this type. I think he's got it priced around $195, and then the chairs are separate, but that's about right now. I sell these down in Florida, and this is a pair of water skis. Cypress Gardens, which is now Legoland, was the place that started the big water skiing shows, and one of the fellows who worked there and ran things was Dick Pope Jr., and he was 3-time national champion on the water skis. This one is a good set because it has the shoes and it also has the extra grip on the back for the heels. And then it's got an extra shoe in the back for stunt tricks or going on one ski, you know, so it's a good set. $100 is about the right price on it. These are not as old as I like to buy, but I remember when our collector's store had these new in about 1997, and they're called Young's Treasures of the Heart. And they were popular because they were one of the first nostalgic depictions of people that appealed to black people as opposed to being caricatures. These are priced between $4 and $8, and you know, they are vintage enough to sell a lot of them on Etsy now, and they sell for as much as 15 to 20 depending on how complicated they are and how scarce they were. There's the mark so that you get a better idea of what it looked like. That one's copyright 1994. Again, like everything, some of these are discontinued now, and there's still people collecting who didn't get them when they wanted them new. So it's a thing. Here in the back room, I always take a look to just see what they've got, and glasses and cups for 50 cents. The Coca-Cola ones are probably worth buying just because they're Coca-Cola. I know some people like the little steamships by Libby there, but I think I'm going to grab these for $1 a piece. Because this is Spuds MacKenzie, and in 1987 when Spuds came out, he was the super party animal, and he cavorted with very attractive young women and partied and was a great logo. And then the Consumer Protection Agency and other agencies figured out that he was really appealing to underage drinkers. At least that was their claim. And so they made Anheuser-Busch put Spuds to sleep. Figuratively, not literally. He was an actual dog, and he had a nice happy life even after he was Spuds MacKenzie. These are Esco-ware from the 1970s, and these celebrity chalk figures, they can sell for $40 and $45. They are primarily stars of the silent film era, especially comedians. We've got Laurel and Hardy here, and then the W.C. Fields, which is cruder, is a different firm. This is a neat looking ship's wheel. It has actual age. We see so many of these that are for decoration that were made just to hang on a wall. It was a very popular thing to do in the 60s, but that was because these old ones, vintage ones with actual wear, had already been taken up and put on walls and in places as decoration. $2.69 is actually a good price for this. I've had them before and sold them for around that price. I even sold one to a dealer in Tampa for almost $200 that was rather fancy. The front three cruets are Fenton, and the one on the right I believe is a fern pattern. The center one is going to be coin dot because it's opalescent with clear spots. If it's the opposite, then it's coin spot. All of those at $35 each are a pretty good deal. In a recent video from Treasure Hunt Mall in Georgia, I showed a yellow set of china that had the same shaped cups and the same handles and same plates. That's because they are all done by Royal China, very popular in the 50s, 60s, and even the 70s. Their Courier and Ives pattern did well up until that time. But this is Colonial Homestead. A very widespread pattern. A lot of these pieces are still out there because it did very well, and it was a little less expensive at the time. Royal really only marked the dinner plates and the serving trays and pieces like that generally. When I was a kid, you'd go to the grocery store and you'd get green stamps depending how much you bought, and Mom would lick the backs of them, put them in a book, and when there were enough books, you would go to the S&H Green Stamp Redemption store. These plates and related pieces were one of the things they sold, and you could trade your stamps for them. These are King's Crown by Indiana Glass. This is a revival of a Victorian pattern. You have to watch to make sure these aren't dishwashed because they will take the color off. But they were very popular in the 70s, and there are collectors now, especially at Christmas time, and the serving pieces are expensive. Farber Brothers, as you saw previously, was a metalworking company. There were various other Farber-related companies. This is a Farber and Shevlin piece that is taking a 1930s style aluminum bale and using the center to put a ceramic dish. This was a popular thing to do. It made a different look for a serving tray. They're attractive now. They typically sell for $15 to $25, and this one's in pretty good shape. As an antique mall dealer, I really love these 1920s tables. They're walnut. They have this great style with all the legs and the stretcher in the middle, and you can display on the top and the bottom. As a show dealer, I really don't like these because they have this stretcher in the middle and you can't stack boxes in them. These are really neat here. These are mannequin heads from the 1930s from a department store. They're very hard to find nowadays. They're made of chalkware. You can see the one has a little bump on her nose, but she'd be worth fixing. These prices are actually not bad. We'll be right back with more of this video. If you're enjoying it, please hit thumbs up to like it. Hit subscribe below if you haven't already subscribed to the channel. And hit the bell to be notified of new videos. I do a new video every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, plus bonus videos. And if you comment, if you subscribe, if you like, it really helps us and it doesn't cost you anything. So thank you for that, and now back to the video. Hall China's jewel tea pattern was so popular that other companies wanted to sell something like it, but Hall had a deal with Jewel Tea that only they could distribute that pattern, so they came out with this orange poppy as an alternative. It's a different style in the blanks as well, a little wider and lower to the ground, but you see the same sort of ribbing in the mixing bowls that the Jewel Tea had, so they did use some shapes. This is a lovely part of a Victorian washstand set. It's not actually a chamber pot for the purposes we consider a chamber pot to be used. That would have had one handle and a wider open top. This with the lid was to put the wastewater after you use the water with the pitcher and washstand bowl, and you would carry it out with two handles because it would be rather heavy. Kathy was a revolutionary comic when it came out because it was the first depiction of a single career woman in the comics. And one of her shticks was that she was constantly dieting and yet she had a cookie addiction. So around 1992, this mass market cookie jar was made by the George Good Company, and I think it's selling for around $40 now. At the same time, Treasure Craft had Kathy Guyswhite, the illustrator, come in and actually sign the mold that they did for a limited edition cookie jar of the same general style, except she was smiling. It was a lot bigger and more robust. It's worth about $100 now. Here's another one of these great enamel top tables. This guy's really got a good kitchen table thing going on here. This one is going to be 1940s. You get the patriotic colors of the red and white. You also get the nice border trim along the edge, a little more traditional style. I believe this set is priced at about $195 if I'm not mistaken. This silly saying was in every granny's house in the 1970s. This is probably made in ceramics class, and it's cute for $6. Here is a vintage McCoy piece that I think is undervalued, although you do see a lot of these. These were very popular with the Swan in the 1930s and 40s. See how the glaze is messy on the bottom? That shows you the difference between the reproduction cookie jar we saw with the fake McCoy stamp and what you would think a real McCoy would look like from that era, because they were cruder back then. These are fun, and I think the prices are good. They're in the $19 to $24 range. I've sold them for as much as $35 and $40 depending on the design. These were made in Japan in the 1950s. They are spice collectors, of course, and all these little drawers come out. You would buy your spices and pour them in back then. And this one is a nice wall hanger. They all have their original hanging devices on the back. I probably should pick a couple of these up because these do well at shows, and I do believe shows are starting. The Birdcage just has a neat shape. It's got that sort of Middle Eastern crown top to it, and it is indeed a crown 1930s or 40s Birdcage. Art Deco bird cages are popular. It's got a stand. $85 is about the going rate. I think I got $95 actually for the last one I sold in the mall. And people use them for everything from bird keeping to rigging up as chandeliers. Peacocks are colorful and showy in nature and also as collectibles, and they are very popular. I've sold trays. I haven't had this great tapestry before though. This is a 1940s or 50s item made likely in Belgium or France. That's where most of the tapestries were made. Probably silk, nice.
Yeah, it's neat seeing her with the stuff running down her actually. I had a big one and it sold right away, but you don't see these little ones very much.
And at home I've got one like that, and I've got a big white one, and then I've got a big one with a gristmill in it.
Well, it's still raining outside, but Cinderella's carriage is ready to spirit us away. Really nice shop here. Here's a little glimpse of some of downtown Greenville. I'm going to have to check out this auction facility. Don't know them. Here's a swing into the downtown. Boy, a really blustery day. That's the county courthouse. And there's the original county seat with the old cupola and the dome and the clock. That's pretty neat looking. When I first became a picker, one of the first things I found was a pair of these beauty parlor chairs. These squarish ones from the 60s are really fun and people enjoy having them in their houses now. And especially when it doesn't have the big dome on top. This is a perfect thing to sell. Inside the front door we see this pair of Blackamoor chalkware figures from the 1950s. They were considered very stylish at the time. They were dresser caddies, hard to find the set together. These wingback chairs with the high backs are popular again, and tacking the arms is popular too, but I've never seen anybody reupholster with quilts before, and I have to say that it's a really novel idea that seems like it could be really fresh. One of these is probably enough for a space because they're very dominating, but the concept is really cool, and these are priced pretty reasonably considering the work that went into them. These Apollo glasses are something I sell in Florida a lot, and they still have a little bit of this new old stock here. I'll probably pick up another couple of cartons. These are the old Edison cylinder discs. Inside ordinarily you would find a disc that would be made of a blue plastic, and it was etched, and those etches, well, that was how you got your music. This is before the phonograph record was really perfected by Edison, right around the turn of the century. This is a neat style. These old postage stamp machines are popping up in a lot of places because a lot of little local contract post offices have gone out of business. This is Art Deco from the 1930s, priced at $50. I think there's a little bit of room in that. I think I've sold this style up to $100. A very fun, modernist little 1960s or 70s child's rocker there. And you can see the back wall, a little bit of vinyl. The store is pretty big, and it is all different vendors, and they bring different things including new, used, and vintage. There's a lot of good buys in this store. These are priced at about retail. They like their advertising that's so popular now, I don't blame them. The Coke cooler bag from the 70s is in really good condition, and that matters, and it's priced at $45, which is not impossible for that piece. I've seen them sell for around that before. Double Cola out of Chattanooga, that's going to be 1970s vintage, and the drink Coca-Cola Thermometer from the 70s as well. This Formica table, even though it's not shaped like the one we saw earlier, is desirable at the price of $50 because it has drop leaves and people like things that can store. Red is a good color. The beige background in this particular textured pattern is something I've seen before. It can make it look a little dull, and Formica can become dull in general. You can use a product called gel gloss to shine up plastic. It's at all the major hardware stores. This quilt is really lovely with the rings. It's in good shape. They did have it for sale. It was priced at $100. I think for this pattern that's probably fair. It's a large one because it can drape an entire 8-foot table, so it'd drape a pretty good sized bed. I always find things in this place, and this is maybe a $6 or $8 item, but it's only priced at $1, so you know, that's pure profit. It's got a good mark. Federal Housewares was out of Chicago. Federal Glass oftentimes had the F in the shield, but this is a 1950s logo, and it's just a great color. I'm going to take it for $1. I keep finding tables today, and I don't really have room for any, but this is neat with the bent wood. But on top of it, I see something I really like. This is another swung glass piece, but this pink color was done by Viking really close to the end of their production in the late 70s, so it's very hard to find, and it's only priced at $10. I think this is probably a $30 piece because of the scarcity of the color. This is another interesting piece of glass. I wasn't planning on buying glass, but look how it's blue in the fluorescent light. This is a Duncan Canterbury pattern. And when we turn around and hold it towards the natural light out at the front window, look how it changes to lavender. This is called Alexandrite glass. Tiffin called it twilight, but it is a color-changing property similar to uranium glass and also collectible because it's interesting to the eye. It used to be you could get these wooden tobacco flats pretty cheaply here in tobacco country, and now, wow, this one's $75. I guess those days are over, or I haven't gone to the right place anyway. People really like these for a host of different reasons. This is a spinning top, which is something many kids had when they were very little back in the past, but if we can get it to work here. The thing that makes this one a little more fun, besides the very glitzy, glamorous stars inside spinning, is the name on the top. And I'll show you that in a minute. It's in the shield here, but I'm having too much fun. Okay, here we go. J. Chain. This was a competitor to Marx, who did the tin toys. This would be a 1950s piece. Chain Company did the big Ferris wheels that are worth a lot of money.
Red one or whatever. Yeah, I just charge those, and that way whenever we get ready to settle up, that's just less I gotta come up with then, you know what I'm saying? Alright, so I'm gonna tear that up. Okay, bye.
I don't know whether it's the fact that 1980s and 90s kids are grown up, or whether it's Mary Kate and Ashley, or John Stamos, or the now notorious Lori Loughlin that is the cause, but these have gone up in value, and $30 to $35 is about right nowadays. This is the Full House set. Ever since the reboot, there is renewed interest in Full House as a TV show and as a cultural icon from its era. I do this trick too, and you have to be careful how you do it, but this dealer's got it right. Yes, you can pile furniture on top of furniture and display it in a way that's still attractive and makes people want it. I like this old Victorian fireplace screen with the stamped metal here. Looks like it's priced under $100, and it's got a couple of hunters on it. Now this vendor mall doesn't do a ton of vintage. Occasionally I find things here though, and I thought the way this old 30s dresser was redone was really clever. Haven't seen one done as a VW van. If you've been trying to find Nemo, you can find him at a vendor mall. You can really find just about anything in a vendor mall because they don't strictly do antiques and vintage. However, they do get some pieces here, and this one's rather unusual. This looks like a chest of drawers, but it is a carved oak 1890s figural griffin Murphy bed. You pull on the handles that seem as if they would be releasing drawers, and in fact the entire front end folds out and there is a bed frame and mattress in there. It was a very handy thing in small apartments and studios back around 1890 to 1900. You don't see them very often, and the mirror is a nice touch. Here is a bunch of coal mining stuff. We are in coal country, so here prices are going to be pretty much full retail. But you've got the old coal miner's pail with the various stacks. You've got the brass lanterns, and then these little discs are anemometers. These were used in coal mines to make sure there was enough air going through that they could take dangerous gases out and keep the miners safe. All these are really cool collectibles and very popular here. This just goes to show that you really can sell anything in a vendor mall. There's a lot of closeout merchandise here, and I can see why this one's closing out. It's just unintentionally hilarious. Maybe a future collectible, you never know. These pieces here are by Acro Agate. They made the Aggie marbles that people are familiar with the swirled colors, just like in the glass that they used in all these little planters and cups. Prices are good on these. These are all under $10, and they used to go for about $15. I think that they're a little soft now, but still cool. Mr. Peanut, very collectible. Mr. Peanut was the brainchild of, I believe, 5th graders in Virginia when the peanut farmers wanted to come up with some sort of a mascot. This is what they came up with, and it was approved and has been the guy ever since. The whistles on the right, they vary in value by color, as do the salt and pepper shakers and the banks. There is one that is made of a plastic that glows in the dark. Those are considerably more. You see a lot of vendor malls that have coin dealers, but this one's a little better as far as the variety. He has a lot of Morgan dollars. He has 3-cent pieces from the Civil War. Even the 1962 proof set is a harder one to find. So it's worth taking a look in these places. If you are a coin collector, you might find a better variety than you would expect. I got really excited when I first saw this chandelier because it's under $100, and look at that great Sputnik-y modernist look. But then I started to get a little suspicious when I saw new caps and wiring. So if you take a look in it, first of all, we'll pick it up and see what the weight's like. And yeah, it's pretty light. There's a very new sticker on it. I think if we look in the ends of these, we're going to probably see some sort of offshore maker mark. They are reproducing chrome lamps in a modernist style. Yep, there we go. So these are from China. Now, I don't usually find a lot of things in this mall, but here's 3 winners all hanging next to each other. The colors are very 70s. The chevron zigzag pattern is striking, and then this one has the tufted flowers in the sort of conical shape. This is something that would be an easy sell at a show, and I think I'll take these at that price. Well, this is going to be my last stop for the day. There actually are a couple of other shops and places in town, but we will walk past the little Hillman Minx here, an example of an early 60s English car that was imported to this country, and now it's advertising antiques and uniques, which is where we are. It's an old brick building with an arched top and hard to miss on a side street to the north of downtown. They have a lot of good old rust and iron stuff outside, windows, architectural pieces, old wheels to line your driveway, and inside antique. Goldenrod was a local dairy out of Madisonville. There's a great old barn that still has the Goldenrod logo on it, and this would have local interest. It's priced at $40. It's really not bad if it's in working order, even though it is a little bit worn. I have a dairy collector out in Washington I think would like it if I can ever get out there. These dinette chairs from the early 70s in the avocado with the big floral and fern motif are really fun, and that's going to be right about the end of this style of dinette chair. The companies were mainly in California, and the product had been on the market about 20 years. People really weren't interested in them anymore at that point. These old apple baskets are really popular to collect now. They're made of wire. They could be used to carry any number of things on a farm back in the day. They're only $15 each here, and these I've seen sell for double that at shows that do a lot of country and primitive type things. This shop has always had a lot of Coca-Cola and related soda fountain memorabilia, old crates, old bottles. I see one item to the left that's hard to find, even though it's really not ancient. I believe it's 1970s and early 80s, but it's this Coca-Cola thermometer, and it's in its original box. This is by a company called True Temp, the True Temp original jumbo dial. And this was an American-made outfit. They did these in various styles, and this one with the multicolored logos is harder to find than most of them. So $45 is really not a bad price, and there you can see on the side that they were the licensee. One thing to be aware to date this a little more specifically is that UPC codes did not come into use until 1977, so that's going to be the earliest that this piece could date. This lamp is fun. It's got all the cherubs, it's got that gold trim on the ivory, it is Hollywood Regency 60s glam all the way, and it is really fancy and only about $50. I would think that this could sell for 3 times that if you had it in the right place at a big city where this type of furnishing is still really popular. I like the old Kent Filters Best sign. This one is before the Surgeon General warning, so about 1963 I would say. It's priced at $40, which is about the right price. Old street signs and highway signs are popular now, particularly if they're embossed, meaning the lettering is above the surface. I always felt sad for the slow children. It's too bad they weren't faster. Now down below here we have a military steward's uniform. The Burroughs adding machine that is over here to my right is cool because it's got the visible innards on the sides. I was never quite clear why they did that. It's the old beveled glass, so this is going to date to the very first couple of decades of the 20th century, but I think it was so that you could see how the mechanism was working, and also so that you could read the numbers in the face below. Here's a whole rack full of Army fatigues, and I'm going to filter through and look for regiments that might not be around anymore. In the meantime, I'm getting ready to head out into the rain again, and so I'm not going to film an outro, but this is George the Antique Nomad with you every day on Periscope, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So glad to have you join me again for this rainy day excursion through Greenville, Kentucky's antique world. Bye for now. See you soon. Thanks for joining me again in the fun and fascinating antique community, here where online meets the real world. Please click the subscribe button below, click the bell to be notified when new videos upload, leave a comment below, and hit thumbs up to like this video. Links to our online social media daily posts and our items for sale are in the description. This is George at the Antique Nomad. Bye for now.